So this is Lego Spider-Man 2022 full movie by C Lego Films, doing a critique of it. And the first, it's a very long video, as you can see, it's an hour long, which makes sense. Remake of the first Spider-Man, but I'm in a call right now with the creator of this video because we're doing a critique together. So he wants me to specifically look at certain sections. So right now we're gonna look at the fight with Flash. We're gonna watch it first, and then I'll let you know my thoughts and go frame by frame and get deeper into the analysis. Right off the bat, I do think that little catch is really neat. I like the way you did that. It looks cool. There's like a nice consistency to each of the fruits falling. And like I said in an earlier attempt at this recording, this is like, you can remember what happened. Like you watch this and you remember what happened in the movie. But it's not like a one-to-one recreation. The camera angles are a little bit different. Alright, so he said that the fight itself doesn't matter. But let's go by that in a frame-by-frame manner. And let's see how I think things could stand to be worked on and how things look good. So I think first, I don't want to comment on things like set design or things like, you know, like where some corners specifically had to be cut because not everybody has access to the same resources. But from this first shot, I do wish the camera was a little bit lower. It was a bit more focused on Peter himself, maybe made him a little bit bigger, a little bit more of a close-up of him specifically because there's a lot of head space, a lot of headroom you have between his head and the top of the frame. And that's just kind of doesn't really emphasize Peter as the main important thing in this scene. It seems like you're emphasizing this big wall, which doesn't really have any detail on it or anything really interesting to note, but it takes up the most amount of space in the frame. You can see the other characters, so I guess you could tell that he's in like a cafeteria, but you could also accomplish that by putting the camera around here and having it face Peter, so that way he could actually, you could see him in the foreground and the students in the background, which would help layer the frame and give it more of a depth to it. Because right now there's nothing really of interest that's behind or around him. And he's also just way too small in the frame. So, this part, I think this is well framed. I like how, like, because this is like pretty much the inverse of what I was just saying. All the important bits are pretty much front and center. You see Mary Jane, you see the legs. Well, you actually don't see Mary Jane. Maybe that's one point I'd say. Like you'd have, I don't know if the movie does this itself, but I guess maybe you could, I actually don't know how you do this, but perhaps like having a small insert of Mary Jane being introduced into the scene by just having her walk up. But honestly, I'm not entirely sure if it really matters because you see her right here anyways. But I guess it could like help make the scene feel a bit more oriented just a tiny bit. I guess it also, I just feel disoriented just because the way this scene is framed. It was in the movie, I just cut it out. Yeah, because I guess the thing is, you see her walking because that's like an important detail, right? When you have a new character enter the scene, you do want to give them some kind of like a facial introduction to the audience, just so that way they know that, okay, she's in this scene. That's something I need to keep track of now. Whereas when you just introduce her with this foot slipping, we're not entirely ready for it, and therefore we're kind of caught off guard, which means it might be a bit harder to process after it happens, and we're kind of busy still thinking about, wait, what just happened by the time we get to this part. But I guess that's not really anything to do with like the actual animation itself. I guess the actual animation here is, I guess there's not much to say about this shot, honestly. It's just really a head turn. It's fine. Animation here is not bad. She does follow like a clear arc. You can see, I guess here she stops moving forward, but if she stops moving forward, that means she should be moving up because her foot shouldn't just be locked in this position because she's slipping, right? But it's kind of like once you get to this frame, it stops. But I guess the shot ends in the frame later right next to it anyways. So it makes for an alright connecting shot. But if you did actually stick it in the air for the very last shot and have it like, have everything else stay the same, but literally just turn this leg up, like rotate it from its hip axis. and that would give it like a cool, whoop, like a banana peel kind of effect that you see in the cartoons. But this does connect into this shot well enough because she is falling in the same direction, which is important. So it looks like it's a one smooth, clear, concise movement. Unfortunately, in this frame, you kind of go wrong because these first 3 frames are perfect, I think, honestly. They perfectly follow the arc. You know, her head is moving back again. But here, she teleports a bit to the left, and it completely breaks the animation's flow, which is a big deal. Also, her hands, they don't move in this frame either. They actually dip a bit lower. Like, these frames connect well. These 2 frames together here, they connect well. Oh, maybe not anymore with the 3rd one. Again, the issue is she goes left, but then she goes back to the right, which once again breaks the flow. I say this a lot, but remember, it's always about the arc and animation. You need to make sure that if your character is moving any direction, and I mean any part of their body is moving in any direction, if you haven't slowed down the momentum yet, you need to keep it going in that exact same direction. It's literally like, most of the time, one frame, if it's in the middle of like a big sequence, there is only one real possible way a lot of these animations or frames can really progress properly. It's like the perfect pose, I guess, but this is very off what the perfect pose I think would have been in terms of flow. I think for the 4th frame, her head should have been around here, her arm should have been up here, and this leg should have been kicked up even more, and she should have been bent backwards more. And of course, keeping this area right here is very important to make sure that it stays locked and grounded in the exact same spot. But I think that is probably the biggest roadblock I find a lot of animators have, is they do not keep to the arc. And that is, I think, the real make or break difference when it comes to animation. So these 3 frames also linked well together here. So 1, 2, 3. Damn it. So close. But yeah, so she throws the tray up. If we keep an eye on the tray kind of wobbles here, teleports a bit. But from here onwards, it seems like it's going in a pretty good direction. Well, actually, if I recall correctly, it was really hard to shoot that shot. C Lego Films, his name is Chrissy on Discord. I apologize, but when it comes to your animation, there is no too hard. It just has to be done. Animation is hard, like, period. It does take a lot of practice, of course. So, you know, don't feel bad if you don't nail it, like, you know, on the first try. A lot of the times people, I didn't know about the whole arc thing either until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I've been animating for nearly a decade. I think that was the real make or break difference that came with my animation, and I think it's the make or break difference with a lot of people's animation. So I kept trying at it, and the camera kept falling over, so I just went, good enough. Damn. Unfortunately, good enough is just not the right mentality to have sometimes. But, you know, it's also tiring. I'd say, like, if it really does get to the point where it's frustrating and it feels like it's not worth it, maybe take a break from it. Maybe shoot a different shot. You know, try to refresh by getting something else done. Interesting here. I think the way the food tray moves within the frame itself, if we ignore the background, the food tray does move pretty well. All the way up here. Yeah, it follows the smooth, concise line of action. Ooh, yeah, that's what we're looking for. And all the fruits do too. Unfortunately, the background does not follow suit. The background seems to be moving on 2s, actually, instead of 1s. Wait, no. The food is moving on 2s. The background is moving on 4s. Interesting. But I mean, it's not like, if we look at the tray in real time. Yeah, okay, so I can't ignore the background not moving in the same speed as the tray, which is unfortunate because the tray actually is animated really well. It's just, you know, it goes where it needs to go. It follows momentum well. It's just the background does not match up with it, which is distracting. She falls into frame. I like how you can just barely see her hair here, because that, like I said before, having this introductory frame, if a character is moving into a scene really quickly, you gotta have at least a little bit of their hair, head, hand, whatever, just in the frame. This might not be enough, but honestly, it does lead into this frame still. So I just put it a bit more to the right, but not too much, honestly, because like you can't do too much, otherwise it breaks the flow. But her flow here is actually, I'm sorry if I'm saying is actually. I don't mean to say that, whoa, I'm impressed that you're able to do this thing, because I am impressed that people are able, like, you know, to do really anything in animation. I think it's just, so far, I feel like the shots we've seen, they have those hints, you know, like you do follow it, but it kind of seems to break at some point, I guess due to whatever may happen on set. Like, you know, sometimes you're fighting with physics, you're fighting with gravity. Stop motion's hard, you know? You don't gotta, like, don't beat yourself up if it's not quite up to the standard, because the whole point of this is that we learn and we grow and we are better every day for learning from the mistakes we made yesterday. It is okay to make mistakes. That's what I'm trying to say, essentially. You have to be wrong every so often. But no, yeah, like Mary Jane, her fall here, it's perfect. She perfectly leans into it here. You see how these last few frames where you really slow it down, you really slow down the increments of the movements, and you even give it the bounce back. I love the bounce back. That small, tiny gap, that move in the opposite direction at the very end of a sequence, at the very end of somebody's movement pattern. I think that gives it a nice little cap to the entire movement. Maybe one more extra one of those little bounce back frames, going back a little bit more to the left, just a tiny bit. But even without that extra one, it still looks nice. I guess if I were to talk about the shot itself, though, again, you really got to remember the rule of thirds, because Peter and MJ, they're all the way to the bottom right corner of the frame, but they are the most important parts of the frame. This whole top area here, we as the audience, we do not obtain any knowledge from it. The way these carts fall, this is the animation you just did, but reversed. Yeah. It's the exact same movements, but just in reverse. Huh. Well, not exactly, you know, the... I guess if there's like a place to do that, it would be that. It would be this with this scene. But it does, because of that, it does suffer from the exact same problems that the previous shot did with the background not moving at the same consistent speed. But honestly, like realistically, plates probably would fall like this too. So the animation itself, even in reverse, isn't bad. So let's see this. Okay, I see here that there's an orange stud. And it looks like that is because, yeah, I'm guessing you might have figured this out, but whenever you have one of these, you have to have the rig be completely in front of the object you're trying to move. So if I were to do this, I'd put this orange stud either on the very side, so that way you can see the entirety of the square of the cafeteria tray, or I'd put it right here on this edge, so that way it'd be sticking out behind the figure. The thing is, the subject has to obstruct the masked rigging thing you're using. It has to obstruct it. It can't be the other way around. Yeah, that's because it has to. So yeah, so next time I put the orange brick and make sure that it's holding it up from the opposite end of where the camera is facing. So that way, even if the orange brick is peeking out from like here, it's peeking out from the other side. So we still have all of this that we could use, and we just got to cut out that, you know. Tray falling isn't bad. No, I like, see, look, I like this a lot right here. Smooths in a little bit of anticipation, and that's what you like to see. He grabs it, and the weight of the tray falling on his hand moves him down a bit. You know, you get a sense of weight because of that. So that's nice. And then even this is like anticipation too, because he instantly moves it up. And you know, because Spider-Man is fast, like really fast, yeah, this difference makes sense. It would, a lot of times it is really just one frame, and the very next frame after that is a tiny bit to really smoothen it out. And then he catches it again. Nice use of weight, the apple falling, and it appropriately causes the rotation. And I like that. You know what? I like that too, because these quick stops you have with Peter specifically, he instantly moves here, but then he kind of stops a bit, a lot. But you do smoothen out that movement. He gets here, and then he just kind of chills around this area for a while. And then this one falls, and then his movement again really quickly changes direction. And like it really gives that feeling of that weird arachnid quickness that Peter seems to have in a lot of these movies. Which is nice. You do capture the effect. And you know, these plates falling, yeah, that's a perfect angle. That's a perfect line of action. Excellent. And once again, we get the weight. We feel the weight of the plate. We feel the weight of that plate too. I guess the sticky tack is a bit noticeable. A lot of people seem to have this issue. You know, I guess at the end of the day, stronger sticky tack really helps. So that way you can get a tiny bit of it to hide it all. It can be a bit distracting when it's in such large quantities though. Not sure about the zoom in. All right, let's see this again. Okay, maybe, nah, actually, no, I like the zoom in. It's funny. Because it happens literally like the frame after he completes this really cool thing.
Wow, great reflexes.
I guess the unfortunate thing is when you do zoom in, I guess you have digital zoom because you can really see the pixels of the camera come to action. Reflex. And yeah, you know, I guess I'm just never really a fan of characters not really moving or acting when they're talking, because they call it like, you know, the no motion, stop motion. But it's just one of those things where I feel like you have to have the characters moving and breathing. Even if they're being idle, they have to have like a tiny bit of something going on. Like maybe just like a small head turn, or like they just move their face forward with their body. Just a little bit of something to tell us that they're still there. Because Peter's not even looking at her either. You know, he's just kind of staring forward. This I can kind of understand too, because like he has this whole big tray in front of him, and honestly doing head turn animations is already annoying. But it is possible, and sometimes it really is beneficial to go that extreme extra mile. That's what stop motion is. It's about going that extreme extra mile, really. I wonder what she's doing in that first frame. But this is, his hand is a little bit wonky here because you don't rotate it in this frame and start rotating it here, but his body movement is fine. I again do wish the camera angles were a little bit different. I kind of wish we got more of a well, I guess this is for the recording if you see this on YouTube, but I kind of wish you got more of like a this angle going on where it's like in front of his face, or maybe like more of a, this is more of a 3/4 angle, but it doesn't give us that much interest. It doesn't really give us an interesting background, like I said earlier. I think having the rows of cafeteria people behind him as a background probably would be more interesting. Yeah, reusing the shots too, which I mean it's one of those things where like reusing shots, I guess a lot of the issues are sadly laziness. I was lazy. Damn. Well, all I can say is that you really do get the work that you put into it when it comes to stop motion. You know, that's all there really is to say. But you learn, and patience. I was trying to crank it out in 2 weeks. Interesting. Well, deadlines can really make or break sometimes, because deadlines, I know some people can use them to really motivate them, but more often than not, people bite off way more than they can chew in a small amount of time, and that leads to being rushed, and it's not even fun at that point. I like that. I'm gonna watch that again. So you don't really get a nice sense of Peter swinging his arm back here because it cuts too early, I think. And also his arm doesn't go far enough back. I think his arm should have really gone behind him, or his body should have gone a lot further back, you know, a lot further. So that way you can, because you want to emphasize it. You want to have that exaggeration to really emphasize what's going on, to really, really let the audience know without any confusion. Okay, this is a little strange because it rotates and then immediately goes back to its default position. That rotation is not excellent. It just hurts the flow of it a bit. But this is not bad. The way it actually, like, this frame onwards, because you have it center stage in the camera moves along with it, the background also moves along with it, and everything seems to be revolving around the tray flying through the air, which is what you want. Except for here, I wish you kind of kept it in this position that you had it for these two frames for the entirety of the sequence, because it would have led into this a little bit better too. But this is nice because you do have that small bit again of weight. He leans forward after he gets hit by it, and then he leans back. Boom. Definitely could have added some more frames. The way it kind of just stops on a dime right here is a little jarring. There's a lot of momentum that is still in the shot that hasn't really been gently let down. It stops in the middle, like, of it in motion. Oh yeah, another thing. You're not going to with this shot, another issue with it, I guess, is that you cannot see this. You cannot see this properly at all. You don't see Peter dodging to the side. You do see it for one frame, but it's only one frame. So that's not enough time for anybody to really understand and notice. Not only that, but this camera angle doesn't help either, because from this camera angle, we don't really have like a nice clear position of just how far the tray actually is from Peter and where it actually is in relation, because I guess this is another one for the face cam recording, but like I've said this before, but if I have something flying this way, you don't really notice it because we are both on the same kind of plane, on a 2D plane. But like, say if we take it from a full frontal angle and we have something flying like this, and I move my head to the left, then I have, you as the audience member can actually see more of a difference that there is between my head and the thing that is flying at me, because I can do this. Whereas if I do it like this, you don't really see it. The web shouldn't even be in that position. I'm not really sure. It's not necessarily about the web, but I think it's more about the camera angle and how it obstructs our view of what's going on. Because like, let me see if I can pull up the original to maybe, let's see, Peter versus Flash. So we have this, right? So yeah, this one right here. So the beauty of this shot is that here we can really understand the difference between Toby and the lunch tray, because for one, there's a lot of time spent on it in terms of like, you know, framing. It even like kind of slows down right next to him and before it launches into Flash. But again, we have more of like a clear, this is all on a 2D plane, which means we can really see the difference. Whereas here, these look like they're on the same exact plane. I hope that makes sense. But going forward, whoops, sometimes it happens. This is a decent shot. Honestly, really not much to say about it. I think it could just do well if the set design had a little bit more, I guess, dynamic flair to it. But that's a different thing. That's a different story altogether. All right. Well, that was the first bit of The Flash. We are currently at 25 minutes in terms of this recording. So I have time for maybe one more scene. What would you choose? What would you like to choose? I know earlier you said you want to choose Norman talking to himself, or that out for revenge scene, the final confrontation, or the final swing. Where's my water? Okay, he said out for revenge. So let's watch that scene. Whoa. A 4-minute scene. Any specific points? I might have to skim through it in the critique part. Okay, so oh, I like the lighting a lot in this. I like how the camera follows. You really do get a big sense of dynamicism and scale with this scene, which is nice. Not only that, but the run cycle's not bad either. Okay, he's really climbing that wall. He's really climbing. Wow, that's kind of cool. I like how much verticality. I like this. There's a lot. The camera angle works really well here. Not only that, but you have Spider-Man very clearly framed, and he's also lit up in a way that the buildings aren't, which even help to illuminate him much further. And that's nice. Not only that, but like again, the camera angles really do complement the size and the scale difference between him and all these buildings. This is also a nice shot. It'd be nice if it was in focus, but this is nice. I like the way the light is glowing off of him. I can see the vision here. I like the POV. We kind of get to see him throwing the second shot out in that scene. It's enough to notice it, but it's not necessarily enough to really frame it well. I wonder how you did that, actually. We also don't really get to see him hit something here. Yeah, we're not, like, yeah, as an audience member, I'm not entirely sure what exactly happens here specifically. I wonder why the camera, yeah, I think the camera stopped panning for a bit, and that is a bit confusing. It can never stop. It has to always go until you gently put it to a stop. I really wonder how you did this. This is cool. Everybody spins another web, and I still like this a lot because again, the main focus of the scene, he's fully focused. Everything in the background is out of focus, so all we really can focus on is him. But the background is still layered and detailed enough to really make us feel like we're in a big world, and that's really nice to see. Although I guess here with the web, it doesn't necessarily look like he's swinging. It kind of looks like, I guess to give an example, in this shot, not this one here, the one coming up. This one, yeah. It looks like he has his web stuck on something that is flying forward, but he's not really doing the swinging. He was doing the swinging earlier. He's doing it right here, for example. But yeah, you know, it's just one of those things, I guess. It's not really... it's not really comic book action. But you know, it's like, that was a cool little shot. Ooh, I think the animation on it is really well done, and I also like the camera pan a lot too. I think the way these fruit crates kind of just explode is excellent. I like that. You want to have that. To take it a step further, you can have these all kind of just burst into the air, but I also understand why you might not want to go for it. But I'm saying if you do go for it, people would think that's insane and they will praise you for it. I also think maybe the camera angle should have just been a bit lower here, just so we can really see the bottom of the cars as they cross by, because really we don't need to see all this stuff up here. Everything above like this green line is not necessary, but everything below this is. I do think that's animated well done. And here he comes. So for the Spidey POV shot, I blue tacked him to some bricks and then put that in front of the camera. That's cool. Alright, some of that stuff there was really difficult to read. Yeah, here the camera is extremely shaky. And sometimes it doesn't move. Here it just goes down for a frame, but then it goes immediately back up. And then it just, yeah, this is really hard to really keep track of. But from that, just these last, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 frames, those last 4 frames, had you continue this, it would have been a really nice shot. I think here you can really see everything, like I said earlier. Maybe, again, yeah, just aim that camera a bit lower, just as a general rule of thumb. But I do like, again, the way it's kind of like, you know, it's like lit dramatically with the resources that you have. It's nice that you're able to accomplish this. And again, I like the way you can feel his weight again by having him bend forward a little bit after his landing. I think I kind of wish the shot went on for a little bit longer because it looks kind of cool. Yeah. Okay, so that's the robber guy. Interesting. Okay, so this is, yeah, I can see what's going on now. So I guess in action scenes like this, you do have a few skill shots like that, and animating a figure in a car is hard. I'm not gonna pretend like it's not, but any type of like still movement or anything, especially in an action scene, can really break the flow and kind of seem a little bit, I guess, stiff. That's cool. I like the way you did that. You have the zoom in on the beam, and then you have the zoom in on Spider-Man to let us know that we were just in his POV, and that those are two things that the audience specifically needs to be aware of. It's the beam and Spider-Man, and they're about to make contact. Just like that. That's really nice. Those 3 shots tell us everything we need to know for this setup, for this payoff. I mean, boom. The classic, he jumps over it. I do not like how the top of his head is off frame, though. I think whenever you have a character flying, or at least I think whenever I see a character flying in a brick film and a bit of their body is cut off, I immediately think, I guess the animator wanted to stick it to the side of the screen so they can hide the thing they were using to hold it up, but it is never convincing. It feels like it. I can't see it as anything but that. And it doesn't also give us a nice scale or sense of the feat that he just accomplished because of it. I think had it been like one really long shot similar to one of these shots from earlier, not that one. Had it been like a shot like that was from, oh whoops, that was from like, whoops, damn, that was like from this scale, right? Imagine we see Spider-Man, the beam right here, then he jumps, he's about around here, this area, then he lands in the car, and the camera's following him the entire time, but it doesn't change angles, it doesn't like, you know, it doesn't get a close-up, it doesn't, you know, change its orientation, it stays this exact same distance from the cars, and it moves forward with them for the entire duration of the sequence. We'd really get to see Spider-Man's jump height in relation to everything that's around him, which will give us a greater appreciation for what had just happened, and also it looks cooler. Having the character also completely in the air just looks nicer, instead of having half of it off the frame. That kind of just feels like the effect doesn't quite sell as well. A lot of close-up of Peter here. That's a cool flip. I like that flip. Maybe not entirely perfect in terms of timing and spacing. You do break the arc a lot here if we're gonna go frame by frame. Yeah, because here he kind of goes to the left, or he rotates left, but he moves to the right. Then he moves to the right and also rotates back to the right again. And then he moves towards the camera and a little bit higher, but then he moves way further back from the camera and much higher again. Yeah, a lot of the arcs break. He teleports down here, but then doesn't keep going until now. And even still, he spent a little bit too much time in the air. But I do like the rotation. If we take the rotation of his body from, I guess, I can't really describe this in non-Blender terms, but I guess like let's pretend this is the x-axis, right? From side to side, and this is the y-axis, and what's coming towards us is the z-axis. Actually, that's completely wrong. This is the x-axis, that's the z-axis, and what's coming towards us is the y-axis. But if we look at how Spider-Man is flipping from the y-axis perspective, it's pretty good. He is dipping further back here, then he's dipping even further back until he's now completely on his side practically, or on his back, I guess, in this case. And now we see like 3/4 of his face and his body from the y-axis. And I think that's well done. The y-axis rotation is really nice. It's like a perfect loop. And I think that's why it's easy to discern as a backflip, even though everything else isn't quite on the same sort of, what's it called? The same sort of, I guess, flow. I like the little crash. I do like the use of close-ups because it does indicate that when you have a close-up on an action that just happened and then you close up on somebody's face, it does give us like, whoa, like their reaction to it. And that's nice. It helps humanize them a bit more. It also lets us know that these people are in a difficult situation where things are dangerous. That's cool. I think that's a nice stylistic choice. And I think you should keep going for it. I think that's nice. Yeah. Oh yeah, Ed, if you want to skip the fight, that's also part of the scene. Let's see. Yeah, I think we might have to because it's, yeah, we're at 36 minutes right now. So, I'm sorry I didn't get to do as much as you wanted me to. I can definitely go back and do more of these scenes if you'd really like. Or if you'd like to, you know, go back and, I guess, go further with this project. If you've learned anything, I hope you learned something. That I would also be happy to cover that whenever you want. But yeah, aside from that, I'll just see what you have to say right now. And are you able to take a little look at the final confrontation? Okay, I'll take a small look. But my throat is getting a little bit like tired now, so I don't know how much I'd be saying. I think the fly back isn't bad, but this, now slow motion and stop motion is insanely hard. But I think you should have still went for just tiny bits of movement while this explosion took place. That way you could really slingshot it into this. And I noticed something. So, in a shot like this, I do think you have the right frame of mind. You do have the right idea. When you have like a freeze frame on this part specifically, it's because he hit the wall so hard that he stuck to it a bit. I think you can animate that though. You can definitely animate him just moving down very, very, very slowly for a few frames rather than freeze frame it. Because freeze framing looks a little bit obvious, whereas him just kind of sliding down it a lot or a tiny bit in a longer amount of time helps sell that it's still in motion. I think the issue is the moment a lot of people can see a freeze frame in a video, in a stop motion video like this, it stops becoming a living thing and starts becoming something that somebody edited together. Which is like, you know, like the immersion has to, the illusion must stay. And the freeze frames kind of break it. But I get what you're trying to do there. You know, it's an animation thing. It's about, you know, timing. It's about impact and force.
Misery, misery, misery. That's what you
again with these side angles. You know, I think
that's what
this shot originally in the actual film was so menacing. That shot was so menacing because you see his face and like you see like how pissed off he is. If I can find it. Yeah, this one. Yeah, you see the full frontal. You see every single thing about him. Not only that, but it's also shot from a bit of a lower angle, and that's for a good reason because A, it makes him look more intimidating. It makes us, the audience, feel smaller. And B, Peter is literally on the ground, so yeah, he's looking up at him. He is actually the one in control. when you have a low angle shot looking upwards, it tells us that this character is in control and that we should fear them. They are imposing. Unfortunately, in this shot, he's way too far off into the bottom right corner. We're not really looking up at him. We're looking down at him, which kind of reminds us that he's a toy. And we don't really get to see his face. His face is casted in shadows, and that's the scariest part.
What you've chosen.
Again, you know, I've said this before, but
You
the camera.
friendship.
And I get, you know, this is for
in
the
my
future.
face.
I get it can be kind of annoying to hear the same thing a lot when you shot this all before hearing it. So I'll try to refrain from making the same talking points too often. But realistically, that's all I really think is like the real barrier to entry for a lot of animators is their camera angles. Typically, just, you know, if it was tilted a little bit further down, and if their animation arcs were tighter and smoother. And by smoother, I mean it follows the arcs like this. This follows a straight line of action. Yeah, that. Perfectly straight. I think it would have looked a bit better had he immediately gone straight to the right from the very beginning, because this doesn't necessarily follow a nice momentum. This kind of just goes like, he goes up and then straight ahead, and then here he starts sloping downwards, which is nice. You got to have that. But when it comes to arcs like that, you really got to think of parabolas, I think, from math class. So take this for example, right? You want to have like something like this. If we can, I don't know if there's like wider ones that exist, but you want to have a character, if they're being launched, kind of follow this line. You know, they go up and then they kind of slow down around here, and then they pick up speed around here, and then boom, they plop right there. You really do got to think of it in terms of like lines. Like, I don't know, math, not really math, but just a lot of animation is just straight lines followed really well. Straight lines or even curved lines, as long as they're followed. But I think that's probably going to be the most I take a look at this. I feel like most of the stuff I have to say has been said with all the other scenes. I guess there's like some specifics I can get into with this scene, but I think hopefully for the most part I've said things that may point you in the right direction. I'm waiting. He is typing. What will he say? Are you able to just skip to Gabi's death like just before it? Alright, let's see.
I would never. I tried to stop it. I couldn't stop it. I would never hurt you.
I knew from the beginning.
I wish this was in the air. Again, all I see here is I know there's a rig just around here that you are hiding from me.
Anything ever happened to me, it was you that I could count on.
See, I like this, a full frontal. I do wish it was from a bit of a lower angle, just so that we get more of an emphasis, because when you have too much headroom and you're looking down on it, it doesn't feel very big.
Me, and so you have. Thank God for you.
See, like this is a nicer angle.
And believe in me. As
Oh, I like this. I
believe
like
in
the light on him.
you. I've been
kinda
like
cool.
a father to you. Be a son to me now.
You know, I think you could really sell the effect if you have his hands shaking a bit here. If you have his arms rotating a tiny bit. Make him look a bit more tired, a little bit more desperate too. But still frames, I still think, can be the enemy.
His name was Ben
I zoom in.
Parker.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
See, I think even in that scene, like,
Parker.
if you had his body kind of rotating up while he said that, because, like, Godspeed, Spider-Man, you know, like, he'd, like, take it in what just happened and then release his vengeance.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Okay, this is cool. I like how this is in the air. Though I do think it should be in the exact center of the frame.
Oh.
Ooh. That was impactful. That was nice. Yeah, I think this is well shot. I mean, I guess this, I kind of wish this was in the air for this shot. And I'm guessing it actually was, because I can see a lot of artifacts on screen, which tells me you zoomed in on this shot.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
But if it was aimed a bit lower, I think it would have been nice. Pew! Yeah, I think this is well animated though. Look, this stays on the nice clear path line of action. So does the camera. We see Peter's reaction, and not only that, but I mean his arcs are clear too. You know, that's those stud power. It keeps him on the exact same line of action that you need to stay on. Although I do think he should have gotten off the ground on this frame. And then he should have been way high up in the air. Because I think the issue here is you have him swing his body back and then slow down, and then he jumps. When typically, the reason why he jumps is because the momentum of him swinging his body back carries him upwards. But you stop all the momentum right here. So the jump kind of looks a little bit unnatural. Just a little bit. It's not make or break. It doesn't break it though. You know, it's still a decent, nice line. I kind of wish his body bent backwards even further here, so that way maybe we'd see his head around here. And his legs would be a little bit more dangled up. We see the Goblin Glider flying through. And headed right for Norman. Again, this is just another shot where I think it'd look so much better if it was around here. But I still think it does its job right. There's too much going on in these frames to really understand what just happened. Because all these shadows and all these different bricks paint a bit of a mosaic that's hard to follow. Especially given that the camera moves through so many of them so quickly, and it's only on screen for 3 frames. Typically I find 5 frames or 6 frames to be about the shortest amount of time you can make a shot, because anything less than that is just too fast for somebody to comprehend.
Oh.
But I do like that. I really, really like this impact here. This impact. Because yeah, this is how it should be. If anything is hitting anything, whatever is getting hit immediately, and I mean immediately, gets transported to wherever it has to get transported to. So these 2 frames are perfect. This frame leading into it is also perfect. And then that meaty kind of like, ooh, you know, you like squish him in there. That is perfect. I guess the set kind of shaking a bit. Not quite as perfect, but it doesn't ruin it. Yeah, that's nice. Well done. And yeah, the timing and the difference in time between this happening and the spikes coming through, that is pretty good, I gotta say. I'd add 1 frame or 2 frames of bounce back right after this. Just a tiny bit of bounce back. Bleh. Rest in peace, Goblin. Alright, so is that everything you wanted me to look at? We're currently at 48 minutes. Wow. I think that will be all that I can do. I'm not sorry. I can't do the final swing. I've already it's 50. We're at 50 minutes. 12 seconds is more than just 12 seconds. I apologize, Chrissy. Maybe next time, but I do have to put a stop to this because it's been a very long time. Well, hopefully anybody who's watched can also enjoy it and maybe learn something from it too. Chrissy, thank you for submitting this to be looked at, and we can, you know, do another one for the final swing at some other point. I think just to give it a small peek, Okay, I think just from first impressions, I think the biggest issue is that the camera isn't consistently moving each frame. But I do like, well, it really doesn't feel like everything is moving consistently at each frame. Feels like there's some stops and strange gaps in positioning. Yeah, like right there. Just got to make sure everything is on the same constant flowing track with things like this. The arcs aren't bad. The movement isn't bad in a lot of places either. Honestly, yeah, it's nice. There's like momentum, there's like physics, but it can be cleaner in certain places. Again, I refer to you to the parabola. Really look at that and just envision that whenever you have the spider swing. But that will be all. Thank you again. Peace.